Okay. Um, I think I got everything that I needed to have included in the Tic-Tac-Toe portfolio. And I just chose this really cute background. Um, the three main um, things I decided to cover in this PowerPoint were um, emerging technologies, block-based programming, and lesson planning. And I first started to talk about emerging technologies. And so on this page, I decided just to give some basic some basic definitions of the different types of emerging technologies. So one type of emerging technology that is the most popular and I think the most effective way for teaching is virtual reality. And virtual reality is an artificial environment which is experienced through sensory stimuli, such as sights and sounds, provided by a computer in which one's actions are partially determined what happens in the environment. And so with virtual reality, as you can see in the little picture, it's kind of blurry, but in the picture they have like those Oculus Rift helmets on, and basically those are, you just put them on and you're like in a whole new world. Personally, it makes me motion sick, so I can't do it, but you know, for children, young age children, I feel like this would be a very effective way for education, like to bring it to a whole nother level. Next up, we have augmented reality, which is an enhanced version of reality created using technology to overlay digital information on an image of something being viewed through a device such as a smartphone camera. So that's kind of like the 360 videos that you can find on Facebook or YouTube, those kind of videos. Mixed reality is the merging of real and virtual worlds to produce new environments and visualizations where physical and digital objects coexist and interact in real time. And then artificial intelligence. I have done quite my extensive research on artificial intelligence. I wrote a paper about it and presented a slideshow for one of my finals when I was in community college. Artificial intelligence is the theory and development of computer systems able to perform tasks that are normally require human intelligence, such as visual perception, speech recognition, decision making, and translation between languages. And there is a huge difference between robotics and artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence is just the computer system, while robotics is the physical part. So like when people think of artificial intelligence, they immediately just think androids. Artificial intelligence is just the computer system that is able to mimic human tasks. All it is missing is a human consciousness. So the guiding questions I chose to answer for my emerging technologies. Why did I choose this artifact? I chose this artifact because the benefits of these forms of technology, you know, the possibilities are endless. Like this could be used for all ages of learners. Like it could be used for kindergartners to have, you know, they could put on a VR headset and be able to walk through a science experiment, or to see, you know, baby birds hatching, or to see like different things in history or different things in science. Or this could be used in med school for doctors, for them to practice surgeries instead of using, you know, dead cadavers or dead pigs or different things. It's not emerging, like VR is able to it's a good thing, but yet we should be able to still do the physical thing. But VR just opens the spectrum of opportunities. What I learned, so when discussing the subject, I learned that this technology can bring a whole new meaning to education, like I was just mentioning. I feel like all the technology can have many uses when we're talking about education, and all of these emerging technologies can bring things such as science, history, and other many subjects to life. I feel like this technology would excel the most for like public school age children in history and science, being able to witness like wars and go back and just view things that happened in history from a first person perspective or a third person perspective would be such a fun way to engage learners, to be like, active and engaging learning. How does educational technology relate to your field? I feel like I'm completing my degree for ages like kindergarten through 6th grade. So this educational technology can help me as an educator to make my lesson planning fun and engaging for my students. Using VR or mixed reality or augmented reality or even some sorts of artificial intelligence can completely change the way that children learn today. And I feel like I will be using, as much as society is progressing, education needs to be able to keep up with new emerging technologies. And I feel like this is a very great way to emerge the current education system and emerging technologies together to make like a good common ground for educational learning. Second, I chose block-based programming, and I just basically gave the definitions of both block-based programming and text-based programming. Block-based programming coding is a type of programming that uses visual drag and drop interface instead of source code editor. And text-based programming is a programming language that does not involve graphical elements, blocks as the main part of the programming language. Instead, it's mostly oriented around text. And in the picture on the left is text-based programming, while on the right is our block-based programming. The guiding questions I chose to ask or to answer were, why did I choose this artifact? And I chose this artifact because I felt like I learned the most during this section. I had previously done this stuff in middle school, and I feel like I was completely reintroduced to this form of technology. In middle school, I did not like block-based programming. I felt like there wasn't enough knowledge on it at the time when I had done it, and I just prefer text-based programming. I understand it more. My mind is more gravitated toward text-based programming, but I could definitely see why children like block-based programming. It all depends on how you learn. What did I learn? When learning about block-based programming, I felt like I had a blast from the past. Yeah, like I had said, we had done this in middle school, but since then there have been so many new developments at block-based programming. I mean, when we did the hour of code for an assignment, that was the block-based programming where we had to draw the shapes. That's what we did. But when we did like the hour of code Minecraft, and there were different ones with different games like Peppa Pig, and I'm like, that is such an amazing way to bring students into the world of programming. Lastly, I chose what questions I have, and I feel like I just want to know how I can utilize this for my younger students, like pre-K, kindergarten students, like how I could introduce them to the art of programming. And the last question I had was, what different ways to incorporate different learning styles into block-based programming? Like I had mentioned, block-based programming wasn't for me, and it's not for me, but I feel like it's a great way for students to learn the programming skills and just get in touch with technology, to understand how those things work. But for students that don't use block-based programming and can't really learn off of it, I would just like to know ways that I could, for it to be beneficial to them. Lastly, I chose lesson planning, and I think this is the most important part to all of the sections that we did this semester or this term. So I just chose to give a loose definition, and I have all of my sources cited at the end of this PowerPoint. A lesson plan is a teacher guide for facilitating a lesson. It typically includes a goal, what students need to learn, how the goal is achieved, the method of delivery and procedure, and the way to measure how well the goal was reached, usually via homework, assignments, testing, etc. And then I had mentioned lesson planning is how teachers choose to teach their given curriculum to the students, but are given the freedom to introduce it in creative ways to increase the classroom engagement. And then on the side, I have just a nice little picture of the 8 things, 8 reasons on why we use lesson plans and how we can use them, etc. Guiding questions. I chose to answer why I chose this artifact. I went ahead and answered that completely across all of my themes that I picked. And I thought that the lesson planning portion was honestly the most important part of the course for me, because I feel like I learned the most because I had never done an actual lesson plan that was that involved and that more in depth. And I feel like it shouldn't have been one of the most important just to me, but I feel like the rest of my classmates and my peers should take this section of our class the most serious, because this is what we will be doing every day as teachers. Lesson planning is going to be one of the things that we as teachers need to master. So I feel like this part of the course was the most important to me by far. Um, what would be a good follow-up course to take? I personally think that Buena Vista University should offer just a mastering of lesson planning course for both or any teaching program. I feel like it should be offered. I feel like it needs to be offered. I feel like I personally would love to take a lesson planning class where we pick topics each week. We're given topics each week or twice a week or 3 times a week and make those lesson plans. I feel like it'd be great. So we can master different lesson plans, master different types of lesson plans, how to differentiate lesson plans, et cetera, et cetera. I feel like it is 110% necessary for the success of my future career and the future career of all of my peers and the students coming in now. And lastly, I asked, what new questions did I have? And I just want to know, how some teachers lesson plan. Do they do it daily? After each class? Do they do it weekly? Do they do it monthly? Do they do it bi-weekly, etc.? I just want to know what most teachers do, what has the best groove, what works best for me. And I also want to know how detailed my lesson plan should be, because I'm going K through 6, so they don't need to be as detailed as ones in high school or middle school. But I feel like they do need to be detailed, but I just don't know how much detail is too much detail, or uh how uh how little, I don't know how to word this. Too little detail. If there's too little detail, I just need to find that good in between. That's why I feel like that lesson planning course would be so amazing to have. And the last question I had was, how often should I adjust my lesson plans based on the formative assessment results? So I just don't know. Should I wait until the next year to change my lesson plans, or should I do it as soon as my formative assessments come back? Or what would be a good medium? I just think I would just like to find a good balance for myself, and I feel like I could do that as long as I have more practice. And I feel like there should be a course to practice lesson planning, as it is one of the most important parts of your career besides teaching your students. And then I just had my citations for my definitions and some of the information that I had got. And that's the last part of my slide. And that was everything. And I hope I did very well. So have a great night.